All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. This is Ben Yarbrough
and Joseph Schmidt
from Calyptix Security, and we're really excited to bring to you a lot of information of what we've been working on and what we're going to do going forward. So we'd encourage you to ask questions as we go. We'll try to pick some up as we go, and some for the end, obviously. I want to be judicious with the time, so I'm going to move pretty quickly. Joseph's been with us now for about a year and a half.
Yep.
So Joseph is focused on our marketing efforts, and many of you have had the opportunity to work with Joseph on some marketing campaigns. He's also been instrumental in coordinating what we're doing with the portal, and we'll continue to work with you guys, soliciting input, whether or not it's product or notifications or otherwise. So glad to introduce Joseph to you. We'll try to get him out to the road a little bit. He's got a young family. So we'll see, but hopefully you can get out to a few of the events this year. So we're going to touch base on Community Shield, which has been a big push over the last couple of years, and share some data with you. We're going to talk about the new portal, and Joseph is going to run with that. We're going to hit real briefly where we're going to be going on the ASCii conferences this year. So hopefully you can get those on your schedule, possibly to meet in person. And then we're going to talk about the roadmap, and that's the most important and exciting part. And then obviously open up the Q&A. So again, we appreciate you guys taking time. Want to try to move quickly. These slides for Community Shield represent real data from a real data, big data platform hosted by a company called Treasure Data, where we collect gobs of information on the network attacks that we've been using to build the Community Shield for you guys. And there's a video, it's about 2.5 minutes. No auditory, so it's just the slide. So if you want to look at the full length, I encourage you to go to the YouTube video to do that. You can get there from the blog site. So when you look at the Community Shield and Geofence, which was introduced in version 5, that blocked over 10 billion connections at our small business sites, inbound and outbound. What's interesting is that excludes the known scanners, which are just voluminous and noise. So these are probes, they're attacks, they're all kind of stuff. When you break it down, a little over half was Geofence. And the balance was Community Shield. Geofence alone blocked more than 19 million unique IPs probing your networks. Community Shield stopped about 4.5 billion connections, again, excluding scanners. And we didn't get a lot of complaints. That was a little over 3.3 million unique IPs. To me, what's interesting about that is where this data comes from, because these are people trying to get in our client sites, your customer sites. It's the failed logins where they log in my box at home and Rick's box in Ohio, or Ken's box in Seattle, right? It's not rocket science. We know if this infrastructure is used to do things it shouldn't be done, it's being used by bad people to do bad things. That's enough for me. It means we don't want them touching our infrastructure. Suspicious US IPs has been a really robust feed. These are US-based infrastructure that's being used to scan and probe, try to discover vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and these are the others. And we also include in this the external threat feeds. There are about 15 of those. Ask yourself, what does that look like? When we started, it was about 18,000 entries. Now it's over 35,000 entries, and it's constantly rotating. Now, those entries are single IP addresses, but they're also CIDR ranges. So in total, they cover well over 16 million and as many as 19 million at some times. They go up and down. Most of the data that we pull in from our community are single IPs at this point. The external feeds tend to be the CIDR ranges. This gives you just a quick glimpse at the volume, and it goes up and down. You'll see that, RDP probes probably, a couple of months ago really started going up. Failed logins goes up and down, and it's just constantly evolving, and it's illustrative of our first detection of the malicious or suspicious use of the infrastructure. Once we know what it categorizes in, we put it there, and we keep the IPs or CIDRs on the list until we don't see activity for quite some time. We're a little more aggressive than the enterprise solutions because we think we can be. We think that's a security advantage of the SMB space that's often underutilized, that we can shrink your attack surface with a lot more aggressive approach than the ISPs or the big vendors, because for them to remediate is too expensive, takes too much time. So they have a, more open accessibility. At no time during the year did the IP count drop below 16.8 million. So every firewall on version, was it 503 or greater, has had this block list embedded in it, and it's been updated, maintained, enhanced. And when you look at the alerts that the list has generated, it's spread out across the different feeds. The number 1, 3, and 4 detective feeds are organic to our community. Suspicious US IPs, the RDP probes, the recon, which are the Nmap and other scans, the emerging threat SENS Army and the D-Shield list. Those are helpful, but that's not the leading source of actionable threat intel. It's the organic feeds generated by your customer sites. And when you look at that, it's roughly between 20 and 25,000 IPs at any given time. But over the course of the year, you'll see it's been significantly more than that. It was almost 160,000 unique IPs across the organic feeds. These represent, intrusion exploitation. As a reminder, those are IDS, IPS detected events at customer sites triggering snort rules. That is a really robust source of intel. It is more prone to a few false positives, and our team is working on throttling that where we can. Suspicious US IPs are active scanners and active probes that these guys spin up at DigitalOcean and other places like that. The recon or the Nmap scans, the failed logins, or access over the AccessEnforcer GUI, Gatekeeper GUI, or the SSH port if it's exposed. RDP probes are attempted connections over non-standard ports that are blocked by IDS, IPS rules. And the Log4j active exploitation are specific IDS rules. And then the super scanners are a small subset that we detect to try to really reduce the noise. And that's been, up to as many as 1,500 unique IPs. So when you look at the data, what's been the benefit of Community Shield? And we've noticed that just within the year that we've have rolled this out, that in aggregate, we see at the beginning about 300 events per day of failed logins. And that's decreased by about a third to 215. That's a nice 30% reduction. That's a meaningful reduction of exposure. But the guys that don't have it, and we do have a few of you out there that have pre-503 boxes, we get almost 15,000 failed login attempts a day for those sites. And it's a small population. So on average, it's pretty damn high.
Oh, yeah.
So where does it all come from? What we're after with Community Shield is really focusing on the U.S. infrastructure. I'll share with you why a little later, but it also blocks, Russia, the inbound stuff there, Netherlands, Great Britain. It's constantly changing. And then in terms of what we see going outbound, it's 443 and 80 DNS. These are traditional destination ports for the feeds that we're blocking. In terms of the threats, when we actually get in and analyze it, we're stopping infections of Quackbot, attempts to connect to botnets and leverage crypto miners. At the end of the day, the data we're using and the solution is built by your deployment of current access enforcers. And it's what we set out to do, was build a system that leveraged shared threat intel. And we're really excited how far we've gotten and where we think it can go. To give you some idea of the potential, I shared with you that we have 35,000 entries that represents between 16 and 18 million IPs. Every list that we build is based on a data table that can go to 500,000 entries. And I'm not sure, but I think the number of tables is between 50 to 100 different unique tables that we can build. So the ability to scale this community feed is significant in volume. And so the next step is getting more information as well as disseminating it faster. So with that, we'll move over to the portal, and Joseph is going to sort of run through what we're building, what we've built, and how we hope it will help you.
Yes, thank you, Ben. So as you see right here, partners.calyptix.com, it is live right now. Anyone can go to that. That is a public-facing website. So everything is right there in the open, knowledge base, general best practices, news, that kind of stuff, release notes. And I'll go over each detail as we move along. Now,
so that's not our website, right? So
no.
That's where are we hosting that?
That is still just calyptix.com.
But where the portal is hosted on Salesforce, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So the reason why we did this is to consolidate our multiple different areas that we have information that we give to our partners. We've had the online portal that you all know of, SPS, which gives you your hardware device information, and we have on our back end Salesforce that holds all that information that we deal with on a day-to-day. And so it just made more sense to consolidate it into one area and bring more to you guys in front. So, but putting it all together is just what made sense. So when it all comes to the end of it, we have the account and site information in the portal, the Community Shield notifications, the knowledge base that was from the online portal, technical advisories, reports and charts, which will be a new thing that you have not experienced yet, news and events, same thing from the online portal, release notes, change logs, and coming soon would be configuration backups. So it's all about unifying the experience for you. So as what I just said, it's everything that a partner would need, and we're going to be continuing to add to it as everything goes on further with this.
So the network site for us is what we consider your customer location. So at your network site record is where the AccessEnforcer is deployed. And just as a little background, we use that association to append your log data so we can keep track of it. So when you think about your experience with the portal, you know, your network site is your customer, because AccessEnforcer devices come and go. So we'll work with you as you get into it so that we make sure we always have the right device at the right location, so you've got continuity of log data as you need it.
So just to do a brief overview of what it looks like if you were to log into this right now. This does not require any kind of login, so it's just forward-facing into the public. So you will have like a what's new section, so you always have everything up to date of what we're doing and what is happening. New knowledge articles are right there at the top, so the knowledge base, like I said, is freely accessible to anyone. Most common issues are down below for any kind of knowledge articles that we write about that. New events, holiday schedule, and release notes.
So what Joseph was sharing was that the knowledge base is public now. There's no login required, so it's easier access. And so everybody, prospects, your end customers, will have ability to see that. We think that's going to help with market awareness and make training easier as well. So for instance, the change logs and the like, that won't be behind the login.
Right. And like I alluded to before, there's a whole getting started page that would give you a quick start guide, AccessEnforcer models that gives you the specs of each one, important information. And there's also suggested practices down below. Yeah.
So you'll see this soon when we start shipping units. We'll no longer include the full brochure. We'll put a QR code so your new techs can scan that and get quick access to the knowledge base, no login required, and get a lot more information. So we're looking for feedback on this to help facilitate that experience.
And just like in the previous online portal that we have currently, we will have training resources, which is a collection of videos that we have for webinars and short explainer videos as we make them.
So as you go through this, an important thing, if there's stuff you can't find, or you're having difficulty finding what you used to be able to find, we want to hear about that. So I'm sure there are things that are going to be missing. We had over 15 years of knowledge-based content in the old portal, much of which didn't make it. We didn't bring all the old version 2 and 3 stuff over. I hope you appreciate that. So we're trying to keep it relevant and keep it tight.
And the same thing goes for release notes. We're making a separate page just for that, to hold all that information so it's easy and not just lost in the sauce, basically. And if you can't find anything as for like a knowledge article as you go through, there is a search bar that is very robust. It will pick out anything that we have of a knowledge article.
So like I said, this is built on Salesforce. Salesforce is extremely powerful platform, and in order to access the company-based information, that is the network sites and the contacts and those types of things, their portal licenses. What's going on with this, Joseph?
So this is actually the different roles that a partner can have. So everyone, we agreed that everyone will get one free partner admin portal license to access their account-specific related information. That's one per company, and what that'll give you is access to all of the devices that you can view all of the network sites that you have, which would include all the different settings that you have. And we can walk through that later, just not today. And that is to give you the authentication to view those things. Right now, we only have it open for the partner admin, but we do plan on having additional licenses to be purchased for $15 a month. Multi-factor authentication is required for this because of the sensitivity of the information that we have here. We can't just have it open.
And this will be the platform by which your techs will be able to move into the configuration manager that we're working on. We'll talk about. So one of the key points is that this is a robust enterprise platform with 4 nines availability and so forth, and it's something that we don't have to maintain the infrastructure on to get you guys the benefit, but it does have a fee, and so we're needing some help on that aspect. But hopefully you understand that we can focus on security and let Salesforce maintain the portal.
And as for enrollments, that is a manual process that I'll be doing with all of you. It starts today, basically. Each partner will be contacted by me to enroll them into the program. So keep an eye out for that email and the contact from me, and we'll be moving forward with that.
And the way that'll work is, and this also will streamline for purposes of the security on support delivery, but you'll have visibility of your account's contacts and what scope of permissions that you want them to have, and if you want to enable them to have access with a user license. So that will be, essentially a contact is created, the contact is enabled as a user, and the permissions can be set.
So once you have access to the portal as an authenticated user, you have 2 different tabs that'll show up differently. Right now, you just have Learning Center solutions and to make a payment. When you log in, you'll have two other tabs that have the partner program and pricing, contact, technical advisories under the account, and under the customers, you'll have your network sites, notifications, and reports. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that.
So like I said earlier, we're going to be getting out on the road this year. I'm really excited. I've committed and currently have permission on the home front to get out to these 6 events. So we'll be hitting Atlanta, Dallas, Tampa, St. Pete, Columbus, Ohio area, Chicago area, and then DC, Northern Virginia. Additionally, we're here in Charlotte. If you're coming through nearby, let us know. We've got a friend coming in next week, Ted. We're excited to see him. Hopefully we can get out for some barbecue or something. But we really enjoy that. And so if you're coming through, let us know. And then you can sign up. And I believe we've got free passes. I'm not quite sure what the free pass entitles you to, whether or not it's a hotel room or not. But take a look at that. And if you're close to being able to sign up, come see us.
And you can actually, from this portal in the event calendar, the registration links are right there if you wanted to do it just from our portal.
All right. While we do go to these events to pursue new partner opportunities, and that's important to our growth, I've come to realize that you guys, as our core partners, we really want to see you there. And so what I'm going to plan to do is we're not speaking, we're just going to have a booth, but I will be there the day before and the full day of the show. And I plan to find a table somewhere the day before, starting about 11 o'clock. If you want to come have lunch and talk, share thoughts and catch up, that's my plan. So, we really want to connect with you guys and look forward to seeing you on the road. Speaking of road, that's a good looking roadmap sign picture there. I really like it. Joseph loves his visuals. So hopefully you'll see that coming through this and other opportunities. On the roadmap, I think it's important that we start with where we started, and that was our founder Lawrence's patent and PhD thesis about building a shared Intel platform. And when I looked at this, to me, essentially it's a utility service. So what does that mean? That means we need to protect your networks efficiently, effectively, and as affordably as we can. I was reading or listening to some podcasts recently and about how committed Jeff Bezos was to being a low-cost provider. And I know we're not cheap, but I hope when you look at what we're bringing to you, we're incredibly high value, low total cost of ownership. And as you begin to look at the pieces that we have in place and where our roadmap is going to take us, I hope you'll see that what we're bringing to you is not comparable in the marketplace. And why is that? It's because we've been on a mission from day one to build something new and different. And over the last few years, during COVID especially, with the introduction of Gatekeeper and the Community Shield and the expansion of Community Shield, we're really starting to see those investments pay off for the protection of our clients. And in terms of what's going to drive us going forward, it's really a three-pronged reality. It's our mission to deliver security for small businesses that's affordable, easy, and sound, and map that to the requirements and needs of you guys, our partners. You'll see in our 2022 highlights, most all that stuff is driven from partner requests. But it's also done with an eye towards our future and where we're going. But then we also have to balance the market realities and the responsiveness. For instance, multi-factor authentication. We frankly, a year ago had to stop a number of fronts and do that on the gateway as well as make that capability available on the VPN so that you guys could deliver a solution to meet cyber insurance requirements. So we're blending these different things to drive forward and understand that we're not a venture-backed company. We're customer funded. That means we're extremely acutely attuned and listening for what your needs are, what your requirements are, and not just what you want them to be, what you really got to have them to be. And the nice to haves are good too, but the got to haves are really critical. But it also means we have limited resources. So we say no to a lot of things, but the things we say yes to are really important, and we want to make them work and work well for you. So when you look at the last year, 602, 601, 601 build, these were the 4 releases. And it started with the update to OpenBSD 6.9. So that's a whole rewrite of your underlying operating system. We implemented the Gatekeeper Basic and Standard and Advanced Premium plans. I want to point out that 3 portals means you can have a user directory on the box, an LDAP server like a NAS solution, as well as an Active Directory connection. So if you're trying to blend users from multiple sources for remote access, you can do that with the premium, and you get up to 100 users. Unlimited rules. When we started, there was a limit on the number of rules per user, but now it's just, one user could have 100 rules. That means he could get to 100 endpoints. And we expanded the support on the 1500. We updated, core systems, and we added capability for boxes with 2 gigs of RAM to push up the feeds to over 500,000 block list. In 601, we added the audit log exporter. So now you can pull out all the files for all the reports in one CSV. So you can check that out if you haven't. That's really helpful. And then we added some in 601 build 60. Somebody needed to make the cameras work over Gatekeeper. So we did that. That was a direct request for a partner. It was actually pretty simple. So, if you don't ask, you don't know. And so if there are things that would make the implementation solution better, let us know. And then more recently, we needed to spend a good bit of time enhancing the stability of the WAN failover. We had some customers that they made us aware of some real issues. We investigated it, and we worked quite hard and diligently to methodically handle 16 different scenarios of internet failover recovery to create seamless WAN failover. And that has paid off significantly. And we also added a feature to provide an access control list requirement for the SNMP agent retrieval. Again, lots of customer requests there, as well as updating and enhancing the core system. So this public service reminder, remember Albert, he says, a clever person solves a problem, a wise person avoids it. So we've got solutions on the box. You need to be using them. If you're not using Gatekeeper yet, it's available. You get 5 users, no charge. That makes RDP safe again. It means you can get rid of your VPN clients. You get multi-factor access, and the system is not exposed. It's extremely powerful zero trust network access where the endpoint is not exposed to anybody. And we actually got the patent issued a month ago. So if you want to look at the patent, I'll send that out, and you can actually see what we've implemented. Essentially, the port forwarding rule requires the multi-factor authentication to then activate the dynamic port forward rule, which is activated one time for your source IP. So it's extremely effective. Geofence, 66% adoption. We encourage you to use that. Community Shield, you got to have a current version to get the current results there. So make sure you're on version 6. HTTP and HTTPS filtering, we're going to be some big improvements coming that way. This is a reminder, you got to turn it on for both HTTP inspection and HTTPS inspection because they're different tools. For HTTPS, we have to snip out the server name in the TLS exchange or SSL exchange, I guess. And on the HTTP, that's a different inspection there. Another feature is check the box on the dynamic block list. If somebody pokes your box and they trigger a snort rule, the dynamic block list puts them on a permanent 3-hour block all traffic. you'd be amazed if they trigger an IDS rule, even in IDS mode. If you block all traffic, they go away really fast. If you don't, they continue to pound you. And of course, adopt MFA, implement MFA on your gateway or your VPN with Duo. Lastly, get current. We're now running about 90% on version 601 or 602. And in the end of the next couple of weeks, that'll be 90% at 602. So if you're not on version 6, you really need to look why and consider upgrading your hardware. We've got a special offer for you for February to go to a 1500. Really good deal. I brought this quote back out from Paul Nakasone, the head of the NSA and the Cyber Command Chief. And he's like, look, the bad guys are coming in here. They rent a server at DigitalOcean or somewhere else, and they just pound on us. We know what happens, and we can't respond fast enough. So that's why we're focused on the U.S. infrastructure, is this abusive use of U.S. infrastructure. Sometimes they lease it. Sometimes they compromise systems. But either way, they're attacking us from our own backyard. So the objectives for 2023 in terms of the roadmap, the high-level objectives, we want to reduce your total cost of operation, and we want to help save you time. We want to shrink your customer attack surface. We want to identify and stop attacks coming in, and we want to detect and prevent exploitation on the way out. Your firewall, people say, oh, you don't need it anymore. But when you look at what AccessEnforcer does, is zero trust network access. It's a dynamic threat intel platform that collects intel, and it is an actionable user of that intel in a grand community. So, we can detect and stop and prevent exploitation. We can give the right people access to the right systems, and we can help you keep current. So the first thing that's in development right now, that's in a prototype implementation, is called Zeek. Zeek is a third-party open source platform, formerly called Bro. It's what a lot of the big SIM MSSPs are putting out now to collect and forward logs. Zeek will collect a phenomenal amount of log data very efficiently. It basically takes a packet capture and shrinks that down for every connection into a log format. So you can look that up and you can see the type of logs that it can collect. And so what we're doing is we're implementing Zeek on the box to collect logs on one interface. It'll be activated in default and store those logs on the hard drive in probably a 30 to 90 day log rotation. And that'll be enabled by default on your 900, 15, 18, and 1400s, those systems that have the resources to do it. When you activate it on the older systems, it can happen, but it gets really tough. So we're not going to activate it on default there. In terms of the logs that it'll collect, it collects every single live connection, inbound or outbound, with a robust amount of fields in a standardized format. Also collects DNS logs, HTTP and SSL for HTTPS traffic, SSH logs. I've got a poster over here of the stuff that it'll collect, and it's Microsoft logs, it's SMB logs, it's SIP logs, it's Radius logs, it's all kind of stuff. So DHCP logs, and again, it'll store that on the disk. So step one is just getting that implemented. Step two will be to build the interface so that you guys can interact with that system and determine what LAN or VLAN you want it to listen on, and then export those logs on the time frame or possibly other parameters like log types. And then, set an archive policy, whether 30-day or 60 or 90 days. Had a local partner drop in today, and he was saying how they're increasingly getting questionnaires by vendors and upstream, interested parties that want to know that their customers are keeping logs of everything. And this will do that for you. I mean, it'll check the box, solve that problem immediately. So this is really powerful. And then the next phase of that will be forwarding these logs to a SIM type integration that you want. And this log forwarding, it's important that you understand that what we've built in our system is a log forwarding mechanism that we already used for Community Shield. And it's not syslog, it's a resilient TCP secure-based connection, so it ensures resilient log forwarding. So it will pool and forward those logs as we go if it can't connect. And so then once we get that, I'm sure there'll be more to do, but that's where we are on this. And this, again, addresses the problem of logging as well as building visibility on devices that are on the network and forwarding that information to third-party monitoring systems. So the next big piece that's, again, under development and pretty far along is expanding the web filtering capability. This has been on the docket for quite some time, and we've partnered with OpenText, which is a company that owns WebRoot BrightCloud, and they have a OEM solution for web classification and reputation service that provides 82 categories, including 7 for bad domains, which allow us to significantly expand that capability to, they supply this service to all the big enterprises, including ISPs. And it's just a much more efficient, effective way for us to leverage that. And so this will be the first third-party paid piece. And we're paying for that internally currently. It's not a opt-in or out. It's going to be, if you activate this feature, we're going to have to pay, that price gets passed on to us. So we're going to figure that out as we go, but we built that in our current licensing. We think it's important. One of the reasons we think it's important is because it can drive threat intelligence. So I signed the deal with them when they really wanted to get the deal done, which was good for us because I negotiated a term so that we can use the threat intel we collect for you guys. There's no added fee. So if you'll activate this feature, then if somebody detects an IP that's hosting a bad domain, we'll be able to share that with all our other sites. So just understand that there's some strategery, dumb South Georgia boy trying to get the most bang for the buck. But if we can use a more robust web filtering platform, we can take that insight and leverage it across our existing Community Shield. And then after we get that basic implementation done, which sounds easy, but Bryce and the team is having to do a lot of mapping of existing policies and implementations over. But after we get that basic piece done, we'll then roll that into an enhanced policies. One of the things that I'm after is to get uncategorized domains. Why? Because if they haven't seen it, I don't want my parents or my kids being the first person to go to that domain. It just doesn't make sense, right? So I'd rather let somebody else go to get it categorized, so I would block it. And by doing that, you essentially eliminate the default allow policy for 443 and port 80. So think about that. Now you've implemented a default deny for web filtering, which is extremely effective in my mind. And should also yield a lot of threat intel. Now, there are going to be some bumps and bruises with that, especially for you guys out there that use, are sending traffic out to IP addresses over 80 or 443 that aren't in the general world of domains. But we'll work with you to get that excluded and figure those out. We'll also work to add some API extensions for more fine-grained capability for the next piece that I know many of you are excited to hear about. So the next major piece in development, again, this is not vaporware. I've seen it work. Our development team has implemented a cloud manager. We call it CCM. I think that stands for
Calyptix Cloud Manager.
That's impressive. But in all seriousness, if you have a better name for it, let us know. But CCM, it's been asked for a long time. It's a complex tool. It requires reducing the components in the AccessEnforcer to API endpoints while also having a GUI, which we've been doing over the years. And so the basic implementation will provide for client communication as a hosted service, the client on the box communicating with the CCM console. And then you'll allow for some basic configuration changes, including the IP list or the allow list, the block list, and the dynamic block list. Also basic configuration settings for the web filter settings, IDS, IPS settings, geofence, remote management. And then another piece that's really cool is the ability to choose a baseline. So you can choose one unit and say, I want to baseline this box against all of these other boxes. So maybe you have a customer that's got 6 locations and you want to get one site set up the right way. And then you can check those 6 and it'll show you what's different and then implement those changes. So we really think that's going to be really cool. There are a lot of pieces that are coming together for this. And one of those is using Salesforce, because that puts your techs in a portal that then will extend them access to only their boxes that they can manage. So hopefully you see the layers that are built on top of each other to get you there. After we get the core functionality there, we're eager to get feedback about what advanced controls and functionality you need and to make it usable. I mean, we really want use cases to drive the development team here. So the next piece that's more in consideration, it's not had quite the same amount of bits and bytes and really not much coding. There's been some investigation, but no coding, is basically using the AccessEnforcer as a basic DNS resolver to resolve external host names as well as local host names. We think that's really needed as everything migrates, not everything, but a lot migrates to the cloud, that we can then extend that other places, whether or not it's to gatekeeper and gatekeeper rules using the local DNS resolution, or other ways that we can extend the security with some DNS investigation. Another feature that's been requested, partner specific, is around port forwarding rules. And the concept here is, this little plate thing is driving me crazy. Thanks. Hopefully we could stop it. We may not be able to.
I don't think I can stop it.
We can't stop it. But basically the idea is that, you have a lateral and vertical attack surface. When you add time, you add the third vector. And we think that if you can close ports for non-business hours, and you have to have them otherwise open, we could substantially shrink the attack surface of your clients. And so we're looking to do that. Now, what that's going to require is to taking our existing cron mechanism that's on the box for web filtering to set time-based web filtering policies and look to make that a little more robust and extend that to this feature as well. Design the GUI and then implement that capability on a per port forwarding rule at a time basis. So days of the week and times of the day scheduling control. So once that's done, we believe that I personally believe that it offers significant threat intelligence because you've got ports that are open. Frankly, the bad guys know they're open. So when you close them, they're going to continue to bang on them. And we're going to get that intel on who's trying to get into your sites. We have to be sensitive to a legitimate attempt, maybe somebody that's authorized to connect and doesn't realize that that's a closed service in off hours. But now if you combine what's available with Zeek, we'll know established connections that were permitted. So it's quite likely that between Zeek and Nightwatch, we can really synthesize that information and then share that across the fleet. And I think that offers our small business customers a really, really robust protection. Because frankly, if we can stop the guys from getting in that are trying to get in, and then also stop traffic out to those same sites, that's correlated actionable threat intel, and it's very, very effective to make it harder on the bad guys. So we'll continue to improve the portal, and Joseph is eager for feedback. We know we've got to get the configuration back up in there. We want to expand your fleet visibility and help you detect configuration drift and improve different notifications that are worthwhile for you and facilitate best practices. Also looking at ways to maybe get some more reports or mash up information, similar to the way we're pushing the daily Community Shield malicious traffic notification reports. What we found is that we could suck out the data from Salesforce and pull the data in from the log data, combine that, and then push it back in a report that we could share with you, whether or not it's at a partner level, a customer level, a site level. We're eager to explore that. And then some other areas on the Community Shield will be expanding threat feeds to high-risk IPs. We have a contract with the Bright Cloud service to do more threat intel investigation. We want to really enhance that and find the bad domains as well as the bad IPs associated. That's going to take a little bit of work because with these CDNs out there, that can be a little sensitive. But we do think there are a number of bad domains that get generated or get compromised that are small business sites that are used for distribution of malware or also used for access to tools. So when they get in, that's just the beginning of the compromise, right? They plant the seed. The seed has to go out and pull back all their tools. So they're pulling that back from different places. So the more of that we can detect and stop, the harder we can make it and maybe get them to go elsewhere. And then we again want to reduce the false positives, improve the mechanical bits. What that means is to be more efficient on our end, because when we crank all this data, it costs money. If it costs money, we need to be efficient. Otherwise, we have to charge you more. And so if we can crank the data really efficiently, we can keep that price low and the value high. Additionally, we think if we can figure ways to push that data out quicker, if you take the combination of the CCM functionality, which will retain really a near real-time ability to do configuration changes, we're looking at ways that maybe we can push out bad IPs faster as well. And then potentially expand and allow you to grab third-party feeds as well. The capacity's there. We just need to build the capability to retrieve that. So if you do want to subscribe to a third-party feed and that's required, let us know. It can be done. It's just a matter of when and where and what the value is and so forth. So lastly, there's always other stuff. Some of it y'all are aware of, some you may not be. We are moving to OpenBSD 7.2, which is the current OpenBSD release. The reason we do that is because that's the maintained, supported, community-based OS level is 7.2, 7.1, and I think 7.0. So anything they put out now, we have to roll back to 6.9 for the errata and all the fixes. We do that, and so the closer we can stay current, then we can spend time on making new stuff, which is a lot more fun. And so we've got somebody that's focused on the OpenBSD build. We push a lot of our libraries and things that we're using up to the community. So that's maintained. We're really starting to leverage that, which is great. And so that's a whole under the hood kind of stuff. With that comes a lot of enhancements. As many of you know, OpenBSD's focus is security. Security first. The leader of the project, Theo Durat, has said, if security is your number one priority, we're a good fit. If it's something else, we might not be. And so they prioritize security, and that's important for us. And we try to balance that with other needs. But security first means maintenance, means security by default. It means locking things down. It using the tools that are native to OpenBSD, like Pledge and these other tools that prohibit use of systems or processes for unauthorized activities. And all that ultimately tightens down the system. We're also looking at creating a software bill of materials to create transparency. So when we build the box, you know what's in it, that you know it's up to date. It also makes it easier for us to keep it up to date. If there are questions, I'm sure there are. We'll take a pause here and see if there's one. Joseph, here, what's the program for the old portals? how are we gonna? Are they gonna still be accessible?
Oh, yeah, they're currently still accessible, and they will be accessible for a good amount of time. We don't have any kind of sunset date, but the point of making the new online portal is to merge everything together and then discontinue those other sites. So until we have a one-to-one of both of those things, we wouldn't be able to shut down any of those. So
question here is the new portal the same as the my.calyptix.com below?
that's SPS.
That's one of the old platforms, Joseph. So the partners.calyptix.com is the new one.
Correct.
And it'll incorporate the knowledge base from the my.calyptix.
Well, from the online.calyptix.com. The my dot is SPS.
SPS. Okay. Oh, thanks for the correction. So is there a way to make cleanup to the changes? So the best way to make cleanup, there is a page that you can submit. If we've got it labeled the wrong site, the box is at the wrong site, there's a link to do that and fill out a form. Another way to do that will be when you get into the new portal, you can pull out a CSV of every site and every customer name and every serial number. And so that you could submit back to us with the changes, and we can help you make those. If you want to look at, there's a field in the new portal, and we'll have some training on the new portal around this, but there's a field that we pull from your configuration called organizational name. And then there's a field that you'll see called the network site name. When you give us the end customer name, we make that the network site name. And if you change the org name, that's in the config and it'll be in the portal. And so you'll want that to be right. If you transfer the unit, let us know and we'll create a new network site for the new customer. That happens from time to time. We don't want to prohibit you from doing that, but we do want to try to keep track where we can.
Okay, we got George. Yes, I will take a look at those online training videos. Apparently, a couple of them are videos set to private, so I will take a look at that before the end of the day. I will make that public.
On the WebRoot, will we be able to whitelist stuff that WebRoot finds? So, Paul, that's a great question. So I think the functionality will generally work the same in terms of choosing categories of either allow or block or monitor only. With their malicious categories, my current instinct is to encourage you guys to use the block and at least check the malicious, because then you'll be monitoring everything and can block those known bad sites. And then if you need to exempt them, you can exempt the domain. And if it's an IP list and you want to exempt it from everything, you can use the IP allow list. So, and then you can also report changes. This is a quick note from Bryce, that if you actually detect something, knowing that this is WebRoot's data set, you'll be able to go directly to their, we'll provide an easy access to that. So you could submit that they've got something miscategorized or it shouldn't be blocked. So look forward to that. But the way their system works is their client will reach out and grab a certain amount of data and host it local. And then if that's not in the cached data, they'll do a lookup where they've got it at their server and grab it and pull it back. And then if it's not there, then they reach out and go do a manual review. So it's a very advanced process with an awful significant amount of data already cached and pretty quickly available. So we look forward to that more robust data set. A question, Mike's asking about our checklist for NIST guidelines. Appreciate that follow-up and persistent interest in that. I'm working on a baseline configuration document that models the Center for Cybersecurity, CSI or CCI. They've got a baseline document. It's the CIS benchmark documentation. It's not, they're not going to do it. We're doing it, but essentially it's the Center for Information Security. And it's following that model to go through every configuration element and to do that. So that is in the works. We will get that out to you as soon as we have a draft, Mike, and you'll be at the top of the list. There's also the ability of us to potentially put some of that information in the GUI as we go and to make that accessible. And one of the reasons to do that is our developers have actually asked for that, is to tie those pieces together so that it helps maintain that and gives you visibility as well. Conrad's got a great question on some of the availability in some other products about device statuses and whatnot. And I think that's something that for us is worth investigating. So what that will build off of essentially is because the Zeek has a DHCP log, we will leverage that DHCP log to be device aware. That combined with the DNS resolver will look to figure out how to give you more visibility on devices, availability, and approved status and the like. So keep those ideas coming, but that's how those pieces will fit together. Is there a way to check on Community Shield? Is it seeing an issue? So we send out, Community Shield operates by default for inbound or outbound traffic for any of the approximate 16 to 18 million IPs. If an event occurs and traffic is denied, that event is recorded in the network alerts log. And so the easiest way to see that is to go to the network alerts log and hit the filter button, and then filter on the type of alert, Community Shield. And then you can also filter further by whether it's inbound or outbound. And then you can extract that log in CSV format. And so you could do a pivot table very quickly to see the number of alerts associated with a source IP or destination IP, or a source IP if it's inbound. But that's the way, so you get all of that data if on the box and in the logs. Currently, there are 3 notifications that we're generating for those events where we will send an email to you that triggers what is called a notification record in the portal. And that notification record is associated with either A, any single event with an IP that's on one of 2 feeds for command and control IPs. We have a 100% hit rate of the infected devices for activity detected on those feeds. So that runs every about 30 minutes, and then if it happens, the notification is generated and sent to you from Salesforce to either your primary contact, or if you have an account support contact specified with us, then we can send that email to one or both of those email destinations. The second type, so there are 3 types of notifications under that instant alert. C2, high alert. So if there's a high volume of alerts in a 30-minute period for a single source IP, then we will notify you. And that typically, I think, is around 200 or more events within 30 minutes. The third category is if you have an inordinate high number of unique destination IPs. So let's say it's 100 or more destination IPs that are on the block list. And the reason we want to notify you about that is because, frankly, it breaks our process. If you've got a system that's going to that many bad IPs, then you've got a problem, and it also creates a problem for our processes. So we need attention. And then the other kind of notification we have is a report-based notification. And that's the malicious traffic notification, where our analyst, led by India, she has created a process that looks at all the outbound Community Shield events for each site and scores that site on a 1 to 5 basis, 5 being really bad, or actually 0 to 5.
Right.
And if it's bad enough, she thinks it merits investigation. It triggers a report that provides threat intelligence on all the destination IPs that were in the outbound report for that site. You only get it if it occurs. And that, again, happens every 24 hours and goes out about 11 Eastern time. That's typically manually reviewed, mostly on weekdays. Some weekends it's reviewed, sometimes it's not. And but usually that has some manual review. But we try to get those out every day as needed. Hopefully that answers your question. And as that evolves, we need to get probably a little more documentation. We're definitely closing out of time, so we'll go ahead and close the show. We'll work through the questions and get back to everybody if we hadn't answered it. And if we don't, please email us with any more feedback, ideas. And again, as you understand how we're balancing our mission, you guys' needs and requests with the marketplace, with our limited resources. We got some really great, smart people, and we're working for you, and we want to focus on the right things. So we hope, if we say no, it's not because we don't care. It's because we have to juggle priorities. But if you don't ask, we can't evaluate opportunities to help you serve your clients. So again, thank you for your time, your questions, your continued support. We look forward to seeing you on the road and delivering more enhanced solutions for you this year.